Amelia's stomach churned. A blind date, a transaction. She, Amelia Vance, reduced to a pawn in her aunt's latest scheme. The loan, of course, came with Bethany's usual insidious conditions. This time, it was marrying a man she'd never met, a man Bethany had only vaguely described as exceptionally eligible and from a good family. Amelia knew what that meant, exceptionally rich, and from a family so good they wouldn't notice if she vanished into thin air after the wedding. Amelia's mind clicked into gear. This was the shield he needed. "And you believe this inside man is someone close?" she probed, remembering Isabella's venomous smile. "His name is Liam Chen," Bethany continued, oblivious to Amelia's silent turmoil. "From Chen Industries. You know, the Chen Industries. He's looking for a wife, a quiet, compliant one. I hear you just need to charm him. Be polite. Show him you're suitable." Bethany's eyes swept over Amelia's worn jeans and simple t-shirt with a barely concealed sneer. "And for heaven's sake, put on something decent. This isn't a charity event." Liam nodded slowly. "My father's will was complex. It placed me at the helm, but with certain clauses that make me vulnerable if I'm perceived as unstable, or if the company's performance dips below a certain threshold within this fiscal quarter. There are powerful factions within the family who believe they should be in charge." He paused, his gaze meeting hers. A rare moment of vulnerability. "And there are those who would exploit any weakness." A fierce defiance ignited within Amelia. Charm him, be polite, suitable. The very thought curdled her blood. She wasn't a commodity to be traded, no matter how desperate her situation. Her dignity, battered as it was by life's relentless blows, was the last thing she had left. She would not sell herself, not even for Grandma's sake. There had to be another way. Amelia recalled Isabella's thinly veiled ambition, her thinly disguised contempt. "Isabella," she ventured, the name a soft accusation. And then, like a flicker of moonlight in a dark room, an idea, audacious and utterly reckless, bloomed in her mind. If she couldn't refuse the date, she could at least sabotage it. If she had to meet this exceptionally eligible Liam Chen, she would ensure he ran screaming in the opposite direction. She would make herself so utterly repulsive, so spectacularly undesirable, that he would call off the entire charade himself. No compliant wife, no suitable match, just a disastrous encounter he'd want to forget. A muscle in Liam's jaw twitched. She is ambitious, and aligned with certain elements who stand to gain immensely if Obsidian Holdings succeeds. He explained that Isabella, despite her outward loyalty, harbored a deep-seated resentment, believing she was the rightful heir. She had been quietly consolidating her own network within the company, ready to strike. The plan formed quickly, cold and sharp. She wouldn't try to charm him. She would actively repel him. She would be everything he or any man seeking a suitable wife would despise: rude, uncouth, uncultured. A walking, talking catastrophe designed to send him fleeing back to his high society haven. The thought brought a grim, almost liberating smile to her lips. "So, you needed someone who wouldn't be easily swayed by their games," Amelia mused, understanding dawning. Someone they would dismiss. Someone who seemed like a distraction, a scandal, even. Later that evening, as the harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital ward cast long shadows, Amelia sat by her grandmother's bedside. "Don't worry, Grandma," she whispered, stroking the frail hand. "I'll find a way. You'll get better." The words were a promise, a vow she intended to keep, even if it meant sacrificing her reputation, her future, and every shred of polite society's expectations. Her secret weapon for tomorrow's date was not a dazzling gown or a charming smile, but a carefully constructed mask of utter social incompetence. She would ruin this blind date, and in doing so, she would, hopefully, save herself. The desperate act was set in motion. The restaurant was a hushed symphony of expensive silverware clinking against porcelain, soft jazz, and hushed conversations. Amelia, dressed in a deliberately ill-fitting, bright yellow dress she'd unearthed from the back of her closet, felt like a jarring note in this elegant harmony. She had chosen a table by the window, hoping the bustling street outside would provide a quick escape route for her unsuspecting target. "Precisely," Liam confirmed, a faint glint of admiration in his eyes. Anyone from the usual social circles would be easily compromised. Their allegiances already known, their weaknesses exploitable. You, Miss Vance, came in with no agenda, no pre-existing ties. Your genuine nature, even when masked by that performance, was clear to me. You are an unknown variable, and ironically, that makes you the most trustworthy. Liam Chen arrived precisely on time, a figure of understated power. He wasn't the slick, flamboyant millionaire her aunt had described, but something far more unsettling. Tall, with an athletic build that spoke of quiet strength. His dark suit seemed to absorb the light around him. His face, lean and aristocratic, was dominated by eyes that were less dark, more like polished obsidian, deep, intelligent, and unnervingly perceptive. He offered a polite, almost imperceptible nod and took the seat opposite her. The revelation was profound. He hadn't been blind to her act. He had seen through it, recognized the underlying strength and integrity she tried to conceal. It was a testament to his own extraordinary perception and his desperate need for an ally untainted by the system. "Ms. Vance," he said, his voice a low, smooth baritone that resonated with authority. "Thank you for meeting me." Amelia felt a strange mix of emotions. Indignation that she had been a pawn, but also a growing respect for Liam's shrewdness. He wasn't just a wealthy CEO, he was a man under siege, fighting a silent war for his family's legacy. And he had chosen her, the poor girl who acted rude, to be his unlikely comrade. Amelia blinked. He wasn't even flinching at her atrocious attire. Time to escalate. She leaned forward, elbows on the table, and deployed her first offensive. "Oh, please," she drawled, her voice deliberately louder than necessary. "Let's skip the pleasantries. I'm only here because my aunt blackmailed me into it, and I'm pretty sure you're just here to tick a box. So, can we just get this over with?" She punctuated her statement with a theatrical yawn. "So, what's the plan?" Amelia asked, her voice steady, a newfound resolve hardening her gaze. The old survival instincts, now fully awake, urged her to fight. Her grandmother was safe, but this alliance, born of convenience, had unexpectedly drawn her into a conflict far larger than herself. She wasn't just fighting for her family anymore, she was fighting alongside Liam, against a betrayal that threatened to unravel an empire. And a strange sense of loyalty, unexpected and strong, began to stir within her, with the veil of polite society finally lifted. Amelia and Liam found themselves operating not as reluctant spouses, but as co-conspirators. The lavish penthouse, once a gilded cage, transformed into a strategic war room. Amelia's street smarts, once dismissed as crude, became her greatest asset. She possessed an uncanny ability to read people, to spot the subtle tells of deceit that Liam, accustomed to the more overt machinations of the corporate world, sometimes overlooked. A flicker, a mere shadow of something unreadable, crossed Liam's face, but then his lips curved into a faint, almost amused smile. "Blackmail. You say, how fascinating." He steepled his fingers, his gaze unwavering. "And what box am I ticking?" Exactly. Their initial strategy involved a careful dance of gathering intelligence. Liam, leveraging his position, initiated subtle internal audits, while Amelia, feigning disinterest in corporate affairs, used her unconventional nature to her advantage. She would attend social events, ostensibly bored, but her sharp ears would catch whispers. Her keen eyes would note suspicious interactions. She noticed Isabella's frequent, hushed conversations with a stern-faced man Amelia recognized from financial news as a representative of Obsidian Holdings. She observed the subtle shifts in allegiances among board members, the sudden wealth of certain minor executives. Liam, for his part, slowly began to lower his guard, offering Amelia glimpses into the intricate tapestry of his life and the immense pressures he faced. Their conversations, initially terse and transactional, evolved into something more akin to a clandestine alliance. He spoke of the legacy of Chen Industries, a sprawling empire built by his grandfather, now under threat. One evening, Amelia overheard Isabella making a veiled threat on the phone, mentioning unforeseen accidents for anyone who stood in her way. Amelia, heart pounding, immediately relayed the information to Liam. His eyes, usually so controlled, flared with a cold fury. "She's playing a dangerous game," he murmured. "More ruthless than I anticipated?" Amelia scoffed, trying to maintain her bravado. The find a wife, any wife, so your family stops nagging box. Probably. Look, I'm not wife material. I chew with my mouth open. I snort when I laugh. And I have a penchant for collecting stray cats. Oh, and my favorite pastime is arguing with strangers on the internet about conspiracy theories. She pulled out her phone, scrolling dramatically. Did you know the moon landing was staged? Their alliance deepened with each discovery. There was an unspoken language between them, a shared understanding that transcended their disparate backgrounds. Amelia saw the immense burden Liam carried, the weight of his family's legacy, and the loneliness that came with his power. He, in turn, recognized her fierce loyalty and unwavering moral compass, qualities far more valuable than any social grace. She expected disgust, exasperation, perhaps a swift exit. Instead, Liam leaned back, observing her with an unnervingly calm intensity. "Really?" he murmured, a glint in his obsidian eyes. "Which conspiracy theory is your current favorite?" The conspirators, sensing Liam was growing suspicious, began to escalate their attacks. Critical data files mysteriously corrupted. Key meetings were sabotaged. False rumors about Liam's mental stability began to circulate through the media, carefully planted by Isabella's network. The pressure mounted, pushing Liam to the brink. Amelia faltered for a second. This wasn't going according to plan. He wasn't repulsed. He was engaged. She quickly recovered, launching into a rambling, nonsensical diatribe about alien abductions and secret societies, making sure to occasionally pick at a non-existent stain on the tablecloth. She ordered the most expensive, elaborate dish on the menu and then complained loudly about its presentation, pushing the plate away with a huff. During one particularly stressful night, after a crucial deal nearly collapsed due to a leaked memo, Liam slammed his fist on his desk. "They're tightening the net," he growled, pacing his study. "They want to make me look incompetent, unstable, and the board is starting to listen." Throughout it all, Liam Chen remained perfectly composed. He didn't interrupt. He didn't recoil. He simply watched her, his gaze unwavering, dissecting every exaggerated gesture, every poorly executed rude comment. It was as if he saw through the flimsy charade she had so painstakingly constructed, straight into the raw, desperate girl beneath. His eyes seemed to bore into her, not with judgment, but with an unsettling mix of curiosity and recognition. It was a gaze that stripped away her carefully built defenses, leaving her feeling strangely exposed. Amelia, calm amidst the storm, placed a hand on his arm. "Then we make them show their hand," she said, her voice steady. "They want chaos. We give them controlled chaos. We make them think they're winning. Then we pull the rug out from under them." Finally, after what felt like an eternity of her self-inflicted social suicide, Liam set down his napkin. Amelia braced herself for the inevitable rejection, ready to feign disappointment while secretly celebrating her freedom. Liam paused, looking at her, a flicker of something akin to awe in his eyes. "You have a plan, Ms. Vance," he said, his voice quiet, yet it cut through the restaurant's ambient noise like a surgeon's scalpel. He paused, his eyes still locked on hers, a strange, undeniable intensity in their depths. "You are unlike anyone I have ever met. A risky one," Amelia admitted, "but sometimes the biggest gamble is the only way to win. We need to set a trap, a big one, that exposes Isabella and Obsidian Holdings once and for all, something that makes them overplay their hand." Amelia's heart hammered. Was this a backhanded compliment, a prelude to his departure? Together, they meticulously devised a plan that was as audacious as Liam's original proposal. It involved leaking false, yet plausible, information to a seemingly compromised source within Chen Industries, baiting Isabella into a public, irreversible act of betrayal. It required precision, perfect timing, and an unwavering trust in each other. Then, he leaned forward slightly, his gaze piercing her to the core. "And that is precisely why," he continued, his words slow, deliberate, and utterly devoid of any humor. "I am going to marry you." The execution of their plan tested their resilience to its limits. Amelia found herself in increasingly perilous situations, from narrowly avoiding a staged accident in the company parking garage, to deflecting direct threats from Isabella, who, sensing her imminent downfall, grew more desperate and volatile. But with each challenge, Amelia's resolve hardened. She was no longer just a poor girl in a rich man's world. She was a fighter, a protector, and a key player in a high-stakes battle for justice. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Amelia stared at him, her carefully constructed rude persona crumbling like dust. The jazz music faded, the clinking silverware fell silent, and the elegant restaurant vanished. All that remained was Liam Chen, his obsidian eyes, and the two most utterly shocking words she had ever heard. The proposal wasn't a question, it was a statement of intent, and it hung in the air, audacious and utterly terrifyingly unexpected. The silence that followed Liam Chen's audacious declaration was deafening, broken only by the frantic beat of Amelia's own heart. Marry me. The words echoed in her mind, absurd and terrifying. Her carefully constructed facade of rudeness had not only failed, but had somehow, impossibly, backfired into a marriage proposal from a man she'd just met, a man whose gaze felt like it could strip bare her very soul. Through it all, the unspoken bond between Amelia and Liam solidified. Late nights spent poring over documents, hushed conversations in dimly lit rooms, the shared thrill of a minor victory, and the sting of a close call, all forged a connection far deeper than convenience. He saw her courage, her quick thinking, her genuine heart. She saw his integrity, his quiet strength, and the surprising vulnerability beneath his CEO exterior. The tests they faced were not just about saving Chen Industries, they were about building an unbreakable trust, slowly transforming their strange alliance into something beautiful and real. The annual Chen Industries Gala was an event of unparalleled grandeur, a shimmering spectacle of power and wealth. But for Amelia and Liam, it was a battleground. Tonight, the meticulously laid trap would be sprung. The grand ballroom, adorned with crystal chandeliers and overflowing with the city's elite, hummed with anticipation, unaware it was about to become the stage for a dramatic unraveling. "Excuse me," Amelia finally managed, her voice a strained whisper, her bravado evaporating under the weight of his directness. "Are you joking? Because if this is some kind of elaborate prank, it's not funny." Amelia, dressed in a sleek, understated gown that Liam had insisted upon, moved through the crowd with a newfound confidence, a stark contrast to her initial awkwardness. Her eyes, however, were sharp, scanning for Isabella and her key conspirators. Liam, by her side, was a pillar of calm, his presence radiating an almost unnerving control. Liam, however, remained impassive, his expression as serious as the obsidian depth of his eyes. "No joke, Ms. Vance, a proposal. Of marriage. And I assure you, I am quite serious." He picked up his fork, twirling it idly. "I understand this is unconventional, but my needs are urgent, and after observing you, I believe you are uniquely suited to them." The plan was audacious. Relying on Isabella's arrogance and greed, Liam was scheduled to deliver a major address, announcing a new, crucial merger that would solidify Chen Industries' future, unknown to Isabella. The documents for this merger contained carefully planted, irrefutable evidence of her illicit dealings with Obsidian Holdings, designed to be exposed only when she attempted to sabotage the announcement. Amelia scoffed, a desperate, disbelieving sound, uniquely suited. "Because I just spent an hour trying to make you run for the hills, what kind of needs do you have that require a wife who deliberately acts like a deranged badger?" As Liam took the podium, a hush fell over the room. Isabella, poised and smirking in the front row, signaled to a technician discreetly positioned near the projection booth. Her plan was to override Liam's presentation, replacing his legitimate slides with fabricated financial reports designed to portray him as a reckless leader, causing a panic and triggering the hostile takeover. He set the fork down, his gaze unwavering. A wife who is underestimated, a wife who is untainted by the usual social circles, someone with a fierce, untamed spirit, even if they try to hide it behind a performance, someone whose loyalty, once earned, I suspect, is absolute. Liam began his speech, his voice resonant, his words painting a vision of the company's prosperous future. Behind him, the screen flickered, a moment of glitch. Then the numbers on the projected slides began to scramble, twisting into chaotic, damning figures. A collective gasp swept through the ballroom. Whispers erupted, the carefully cultivated calm shattering. Amelia stared, bewildered. He hadn't just seen through her act, he had analyzed it, dissected it. and somehow found value in the very desperation that drove it. It was unnerving. And what, precisely, do I get out of this arrangement? She demanded, trying to regain some semblance of control, her mind racing back to her grandmother's spiraling debts. Ladies and gentlemen, Isabella's voice, amplified by a hidden microphone, cut through the commotion, cool and venomous. It seems Liam's ambitious projections are unraveling. Perhaps he is not as in control as he pretends to be. She stepped forward, a triumphant smile playing on her lips, believing her moment of victory had arrived. Liam finally offered a genuine, though fleeting, smile. It softened his harsh features, making him momentarily less intimidating. Financial security, complete and absolute, for your grandmother's medical expenses, any and all, and a substantial sum for your own comfort. Think of it as a comprehensive solution to your current difficulties. In return, you will be my wife, in name, mostly, and you will play your part. But just as the panic began to spread, Amelia sprang into action. She moved with a speed and precision that startled even Liam. She had anticipated Isabella's exact move, having practiced this moment countless times. With a swift, almost imperceptible flick of her wrist, she activated a small, encrypted device hidden in her clutch. This wasn't just a device, it was a countermeasure, a digital fail-safe Liam had prepared, knowing Amelia would be the only one quick-witted enough to deploy it. Her breath hitched. Financial security for Grandma, the endless nights of worry, the humiliation of begging her aunt, the crushing burden of debt, all of it could disappear. Just like that. It was a devil's bargain, dressed in silk and whispered in a voice of authority. But how could she refuse? Her grandmother's life hung in the balance. The scrambled financial figures on the screen froze, then rapidly began to reassemble, but they didn't revert to Liam's intended slides. Instead, a series of damning documents flashed across the massive screen, encrypted emails detailing Isabella's covert meetings with Obsidian Holdings, bank statements showing suspicious transfers, and recorded phone calls of her making threats and discussing the sabotage. Each document was perfectly time-stamped, undeniable. "Huh, why me?" she pressed, suspicion gnawing at her. "There are countless women who would jump at the chance to marry you. Why pick the one who tried to make you regret ever being born?" A horrified silence descended upon the gala, more potent than any noise. Isabella's triumphant smile dissolved into a mask of pure terror. She spun around, her eyes wide with disbelief, searching for the source. Her gaze landed on Amelia, who stood calmly, the small device now nestled back in her clutch, her face devoid of emotion. His gaze sharpened, a hint of steel in their depths. Because they would jump at the chance. They would be too eager, too predictable. You, Ms. Vance, are a wild card. And for what I need, a wild card is precisely what is required. He leaned forward again, his voice dropping to a confidential murmur. There are complications within my own sphere, political, familial. A marriage of convenience is a necessary shield, and you, with your unconventional nature, make for a most convincing and ironically effective shield. Liam, seizing the moment, his voice cutting through the stunned silence, didn't miss a beat. "As you can see," he said, his tone cold and unwavering, "the true unraveling has nothing to do with Chen Industries' stability, but with the insidious betrayal orchestrated from within." He pointed directly at Isabella. "Isabella Chen, along with her co-conspirators, has been systematically attempting to undermine this company for personal gain, in league with Obsidian Holdings. The evidence is now irrefutable." Amelia felt a chill trace down her spine. Complications. Shield. This wasn't just about avoiding nagging relatives. This was something far more intricate, more dangerous perhaps. He was offering her a lifeline, but it came tethered to a world of unknown shadows. Chaos erupted. Whispers turned into shouts. Reporters, always lurking at such events, surged forward, cameras flashing. Isabella, cornered, attempted to flee, but security, already on high alert, swiftly moved to apprehend her and her shocked accomplices. She thought of her grandmother's pale face, the weary lines around her eyes. She thought of Bethany's cruel smile, ready to discard them both. She was cornered, desperate, and this man, this enigmatic CEO, was offering the only way out she could see. Amelia watched, a quiet satisfaction settling in her heart. Justice. It wasn't always loud or dramatic, but tonight, it had been both. She had played a crucial role, not with dazzling charm or social graces, but with her sharp mind, her quick reflexes, and the unshakable trust Liam had placed in her. Chen Industries was saved, its integrity restored. The facade of the poor girl who acted rude had not only been seen through but had ultimately proven to be the most unexpected and effective weapon against betrayal. The aftermath of the gala was swift and decisive. Isabella Chen and her co-conspirators faced immediate legal repercussions. Their reputations shattered. Their ambitions crumbled to dust. The Chen family, initially reeling from the public scandal, quickly rallied around Liam, their respect for his leadership cemented by his decisive action and Amelia's unexpected courage. The hostile takeover attempt by Obsidian Holdings collapsed, its internal network exposed and its credibility ruined. Chen Industries, far from being destabilized, emerged stronger, its foundations reinforced by transparency and integrity. "What if I say no?" she challenged, a flicker of her old defiance returning. For Amelia, the immediate, overwhelming relief was for her grandmother. With the threat gone and the financial burden lifted, Grandma Vance's recovery accelerated remarkably. The best medical care, peace of mind, and Amelia's constant, loving presence worked wonders. Amelia's manipulative aunt, Bethany, caught in the crossfire of the legal investigations into Isabella's schemes, found herself facing consequences of her own, a poetic justice that Amelia, though she didn't revel in it, acknowledged with a quiet nod. Liam merely raised an eyebrow. "Then you walk away? And your current situation? It remains unchanged. The choice, Ms. Vance, is entirely yours." As the dust settled, the marriage of convenience began to shed its transactional skin, revealing something far more profound beneath. The shared crucible of deception, danger, and mutual trust had forged an unbreakable bond between Amelia and Liam. They had seen each other at their most vulnerable, their most strategic, and their most human. The weight of that choice pressed down on her. Freedom, dignity, her self-respect against her grandmother's life. The scale tipped, heavily, tragically. One quiet evening, as they sat on the penthouse terrace, overlooking the city lights that had once seemed so alien to Amelia, Liam turned to her. His obsidian eyes, once so unreadable, now held a warmth she had come to recognize and cherish. With a heavy sigh that felt like it came from the very core of her being, Amelia looked directly into his unsettlingly perceptive eyes. "All right," she said, the word tasting like ash. "I'll do it, but don't expect me to be compliant. And I still think the moon landing was faked. You know," he began, his voice soft, "when I first saw you acting out that performance, I didn't see a rude girl trying to escape a blind date. I saw a fierce, protective spirit, someone willing to do anything for those she loved, even if it meant sacrificing her own reputation. That kind of unwavering loyalty, it's rarer than any fortune." A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched Liam's lips. "I wouldn't have it any other way, Ms. Vance." His eyes seemed to hold a flicker of something Amelia couldn't quite decipher. Triumph. Yes, but also a strange, quiet satisfaction that hinted at a much deeper game at play. The marriage of convenience was agreed upon, but the mystery surrounding Liam Chen and the true reason for his sudden, shocking proposal had only just begun. Amelia had traded one cage for another, stepping willingly into the unknown. The transition was less a step and more a jarring catapult. One day, Amelia was grappling with medical bills in a cramped apartment. The next, she was being whisked into a world of polished marble, hushed servants, and an overwhelming sense of opulence. Liam Chen's penthouse, a glass and steel marvel that seemed to float above the city, was a stark testament to his power and wealth. It was also, she quickly discovered, a gilded cage. Amelia smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile that reached her eyes. And I saw a man burdened by something far heavier than just wealth, someone fighting to protect what was rightfully his, but also, I realized, what was truly important. Her first encounter with Liam's family was a meticulously orchestrated affair, designed to introduce the CEO's mysterious new fiancé. It was less a warm welcome and more an inspection. Amelia felt every critical gaze, every thinly veiled sneer, particularly from Isabella Chen, Liam's cousin. Isabella was a woman of striking beauty and sharp, calculating eyes, who moved with the effortless grace of someone born into privilege. She greeted Amelia with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, a polite, venomous viper in designer silk. He reached for her hand, his touch gentle but firm. "Our arrangement," he said, "it was born of necessity. But what we've built, it's something else entirely. It's real, isn't it?" "Amelia, isn't it?" Isabella purred, her voice sweet as poison. Such an unexpected match for Liam. We were all rather surprised. "Tell us, where did Liam find such a unique individual?" The implication hung heavy in the air. "What common rock did you crawl out from under?" Amelia squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with an emotion she hadn't dared to acknowledge before. Love. A love born not of grand romantic gestures, but of shared battles, quiet understanding, and profound respect. "Yes, Liam," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "It's very real." Amelia, still raw from the forced politeness she had to adopt, felt the old defiance stir, but she remembered Liam's words, "You will play your part." Her part, for now, was to be underestimated, dismissed. She offered a shrug and a bland smile. "Oh, you know, just around. Liam has a knack for finding things where no one else looks." The subtle barb, delivered with feigned innocence, was solely for Isabella, a quiet acknowledgement of the battle lines drawn. The girl who had once deliberately acted rude to ruin a blind date had not only found financial security for her grandmother, but had unexpectedly discovered a partnership, a true home, and a love that transcended social divides and expectations. She had found a man who saw past her rough edges, recognized her intrinsic worth, and cherished the very qualities she had once tried to hide. The following days were a dizzying blur of tailor fittings, etiquette lessons she mostly ignored, and formal dinners where every fork seemed to have a hidden meaning. Amelia navigated this opulent labyrinth with a mixture of quiet observation and stubborn resilience. She saw the way people clustered around Liam, their faces a mix of respect and thinly veiled ambition. She heard the whispers about his ruthless business acumen, the sheer scale of Chen Industries, and the intense pressure he was constantly under. Their future was unforeseen, an unexpected tapestry woven from desperation and destiny. Amelia, the poor girl, had not sold herself. Instead, she had found her true worth, her strength, and an extraordinary happiness in the most unlikely of places. She belonged now, not just in Liam's opulent world, but by his side, a formidable, unexpected queen in an empire she had helped to save. Their new life together, built on truth, resilience, and an unshakable bond, had only just begun. Liam, for his part, maintained a detached professionalism. He was polite, attentive when necessary, but always with that unreadable glint in his obsidian eyes. He rarely questioned her, rarely commented on her awkward attempts at social graces, or her blatant disregard for some of the more absurd rules of high society. He simply watched, always watching. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay with us for the next one. And while you're here, check out our other videos. There's always more to explore. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments below. One evening, at a charity gala teeming with the city's elite, Amelia inadvertently found herself cornered by a group of snobbish socialites, led by Isabella, who were attempting to embarrass her with questions about art and classical music. Amelia knew nothing about either, but her sharp intelligence wasn't limited to conspiracy theories. Instead of feigning knowledge, she turned the conversation, asking insightful, if slightly cynical, questions about the business of art, about market manipulation and tax havens, subtly implying a deeper understanding of the world's true machinations. The socialites, caught off guard, stumbled, their superficial knowledge exposed. Isabella's smile tightened into a grimace. Liam, who had been across the room, observed the scene. When Amelia finally extricated herself, she felt his gaze on her, a faint, almost imperceptible flicker of approval in his eyes. He approached her, his voice low. "Clever, Ms. Vance." "Very clever." Amelia merely shrugged, picking up a glass of champagne. "Just stating the obvious, Mr. Chen, some people prefer to gaze at the stars. I prefer to study the dirt beneath my feet. His lips twitched, a hint of genuine amusement this time. And you see a great deal there, don't you? The unspoken understanding hung between them. He wasn't looking for a trophy wife. He was looking for something else entirely. And the more Amelia observed him, the more she navigated this glittering, treacherous new world. The more she realized that Liam Chen was far more complex than a simple CEO, and his complications were likely far more dangerous than she had initially imagined. She was in deep, but the survival instincts that had served her so well in her old life were sharpening, adapting to the cutthroat environment of the elite. This world might be new, but the game was still the same: survive and protect what truly mattered. The gilded cage of Liam Chen's world shimmered with hidden currents. Amelia, no longer merely observing, now actively sought to understand the true nature of the complications Liam had hinted at during his audacious proposal. Her instincts, honed by a life of navigating subtle betrayals and unspoken truths, told her there was more than just family squabbles at play. The stale air in the cramped apartment hung heavy with the scent of disinfectant and unspoken anxieties. Amelia traced the faded floral pattern on her grandmother's quilt, her heart a leaden weight in her chest. Outside, the city hummed with indifferent life. But within these four walls, a quiet desperation had taken root. Her grandmother, the only true beacon of warmth and stability Amelia had ever known, lay frail and pale in the hospital bed, her breathing shallow, each gasp a fresh stab of fear in Amelia's soul. The medical bills, a monstrous, ever-growing pile, mocked her from the kitchen table. Her aunt, a woman whose smile rarely reached her eyes, sat across from her, a predatory glint in her gaze. "It's for your grandmother, Amelia." Aunt Bethany purred, her voice dripping with false concern. "This loan, it's the only way we can cover the surgery. And all you have to do is show up. One date, with a very wealthy man. The company is facing a hostile takeover," Liam revealed one evening, his voice devoid of emotion. Yet Amelia sensed the deep-seated concern beneath. They were in his private study, a room dominated by towering bookshelves and a panoramic view of the city, a stark contrast to her humble beginnings. A rival conglomerate, Obsidian Holdings, has been systematically acquiring shares. And they're moving fast. They have an inside man feeding them information.